So you may have noticed that occasionally some of the postcards and cards behind me change. This video is about a not very common topic, although I'm sure the internet would prove me wrong if I actually did a quick search on it. But I don't see a lot of YouTube videos, I would think, being made about snail mail. So that's what I chose for this week's topic because it's been on my mind ever since I moved to Las Vegas about a year ago, a little bit over now. I took up writing letters again, and I had started to when I was an undergrad in Oakland at Mills College when I was living away from family and friends for a bit, but it kind of really started to blossom when I moved to Las Vegas. And there are going to be a few things I talk about in this video. Most of them have to do with why would anyone ever bother purchasing things and sending them by mail, Kelly? What the hell century is it? Oh, I'm sorry, is this like, the 19th century? No, it's not. But I also think that you need to kind of hear me out. Just hear me out. Give me a chance. You can totally disagree with me, and that's valid and cool. It may not be something that you're into, and that's okay. For those of us that might be interested or are into it, this video is probably for people like that. So people who've thought about starting a pen pal kind of thing, or people that already are and just want to see somebody else who is also doing that. So why would you write to somebody in this day and age by hand and bother paying for that or postage or whatnot? There have been some things that I find that are easier to talk about when you write by hand, because I feel like there's more room for you to express yourself always. I mean, you know how it is when you have like that wall of text come in a chat room, or a chat in general, like in Discord or on your phone, right, through texting, and you're just like, whoa, that's a wall of text. And it can be overwhelming. I mean, I'm pretty quick at reading and analyses and all that kind of stuff, and being like, oh, okay, that's what's going on. What does this mean in the context of what we were talking about, But some people, they're kind of like, wow, please don't send me a wall of text, right? I don't know if those same people would give a shit if it was on a letter versus the cell phone, but it gives you more time to digest the information of what somebody's sending you. And I kind of appreciate it in that way. There's always the argument that for some of us, getting something in your hand that's tactile, that you can actually feel and be like, this person sat down and wrote on this piece of paper and took the time out to write it like that. And then, if it's like something like a piece of binder paper or stationery that's like an actual sheet of stationery, not a card or a postcard, and then they folded it up and put it in an envelope, like all those little steps of knowing that somebody took the time to do that. And then also go purchase stamps, by the way, which you can actually do online and print them out if you're in the United States. United States Postal Service has something like that. That, I don't know, that can like mean a lot, especially if you really miss somebody, and just knowing that they cared enough to do that, it can mean the world. I've had some times when I was going through a lot of my spinal complications related to scoliosis where I would receive a letter or a postcard or a package, and it just like, it made my day because, every day was such a struggle, like just to exist. And being far away from friends or family that you really miss, and you're going through something like that, that can really make you feel maybe just like a little less alone for like a split second, right? I know a lot of us, including myself, are on the internet because we socialize that way, right? And that's fine, but I also think that we need to remember there are other ways of socialization, and they're not just in person. This is kind of like that in-between mode of communication where it came into direct contact with the person because the person who wrote it is sending it to you, or packaged it, or whatever, or both. And at the same time, they're not directly there, right? So I kind of think of pen pals and sending letters and or like little gifts and things inside the letters, like stickers or decal weird things or bookmarks, as a way that's like an in-between step. So if you like tactile things, I think that pen pals can be a fun way to keep in contact with people that you care about. The other thing is that as I've gotten older, I've noticed, like everybody's lives can get more complicated, right? Especially if you have certain kinds of work schedules, or, people start families and stuff like that, or you're like me and you're disabled and you were like, oh my God, can I even do things? Like getting dressed would be exhausting and painful. So things like that, where everybody has different things going on in their lives, right? And I think letters, if you have a friendship or relationship in general, so like with a family member or whatnot, like where there's enough trust and faith in that relationship that you can write to somebody. And it's fine if they don't write back to you right away. It's fine if they don't get back to you until the end of the month. Or maybe they're like, oh my gosh, like you sent me that really nice thing and I forgot, and it's like several months later. Hell, it could be like a year later. And if they're like, oh man, and they just drop you something in the mail, maybe they'll give you a heads up through text, hey, I just put this through the mail. So it should be there in like 5 days, and then you have like a countdown that you do, right? At least I do, because it's exciting to receive something from someone, because you don't know what they sent you. You don't know what it's going to look like. And that can also be really fun. So just that understanding, where I feel like it reinforces faith in a relationship. And I know everybody always goes, they automatically go to the romance department. And I'm just kind of like, no, there are valid relationships that are not just romance, okay? Yeah, that like, it's good. I think it's a good and a healthy thing to not expect instant gratification from everyone that surrounds you constantly in your life, okay? I think that's an important thing to learn in life. So, and also it respects the other person's time, okay? And it respects your time. So if there's that mutual understanding, then that can be helpful. Don't ever make it into a contest about like, oh, well, I sent you this, so you have to send me this kind of thing either, because that's pretty juvenile. And honestly, like, just be happy that they're taking time out from their day in general. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just because in the last few years, things have been financially tight for me, that I'm just kind of like, I'm just happy that I was able to afford a postcard and the postage to send you something, so like, yeah, because that's all. Like, the other thing is, I can just hear like my mother being like, that's rude, because it is actually, to expect those kinds of things. And also it takes the fun out of it. Don't do that. I mean, like, if you have like one of those weird warped, and I'm not saying that like in a mean way, but if you have kind of like a warped relationship where like y'all like really like one up in each other all the time, and that's just like a thing you do and that's part of your relationship, that's totally fine. But otherwise, I would generally advise against it. You've been warned. So other reasons why people might actually do that is that it gives you if you're writing things out, you can also sometimes draw. And I know for some of us that's not our forte, but just keep in mind, like, you can be creative. It gives you an opportunity to exercise your creativity when you're talking to somebody that you really miss, or, obviously you care about them in some way or another. And yeah, so that goes into the have fun with it territory. Like, have fun with what you're sending people in snail mail. I like to go places and get postcards that have to do with places that I've been. Or I go to like antique stores or the thrift stores, and sometimes they'll have like that big box of like endlessly old and wacky looking, sometimes retro postcards that are just literally sitting there collecting dust. And some people collect them, so I know that I'll piss off some of the people who collect them. But for the rest of us, don't buy out the whole bit, I guess. But like, you can go ahead and get some, and then you can fill them out as you go. I know that one of my friends just bought like several different postcard sets, and she's like super excited. It's Jordan. You've heard me talk about her on my channel before. Jordan's a friend of mine from high school. And she's just like, I don't know which one to send you. Should I send you the fairy one, or should I send you the vintage one? And like, it's just like, and I have no idea what any of those postcards actually look like outside of their themes. So that's a cool thing. I have like retro stamps, like early 90s kind of stamps, or like where they still used kind of late 80s kind of prints and motifs that you might find on things. And so I sometimes use really old stamps and stuff that I put on my cards, or I'll throw in stickers, or things like that. Just like little things that, you know, I mean, some of that stuff you can get at the dollar store, and there's just wacky, dumb shit that makes you happy. Do it. Or like getting a bunch of markers and like marking that shit up and making it look super snazzy and spectacular, and just doing something that makes you happy and allows you to exercise your creativity and then share that with another person. And I think that's really, honestly, it's really kind of precious. So another reason that snail mail can be fun. Additionally, I know that here in the United States, postage is, I'm not going to say it's reasonable, but I'm going to say that from what I've learned, it's a lot less of a headache to get than in some other countries. I guess in some other countries, one of my other friends who's in the UK right now recently said, you know, I do miss the USPS only in that I don't have to, like, I have to take this and I have to go and I have to put it on a scale and then they charge me by how much it weighs. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you know? Here I get an international stamp, and that works for most cards, okay? So like not parcels necessarily, do your homework, but cards that you send internationally, because I have a friend in Japan and I have one in the UK, right? Like I said, Cirrus. So that's kind of, so if you have a friend in like Scotland and you have a friend in Japan, or, you know, you have people that you maybe have like online relationships with that don't live in your country, yeah, just, I know it's basic, but whether it's domestic or international postage or shipping rates, do your homework, okay? So one of the last, I think it will be the last things I'm going to say about snail mail is that if you're more introverted, which I know in my videos, I don't know if I come across as being an introvert or extrovert, but I'm actually introverted. I only get like extroverted looking, I guess, like I sound that way, I can't words, when I'm excited about a topic. If you're introverted, snail mail can be nice because instead of, or if you're neurodivergent, you have like you're like me and you have ADHD and it's difficult to like concentrate forever or like deal with people constantly, it can be exhausting. It's not that you don't want to, it can just be exhausting. Like it's not how your brain works. That's okay. And snail mail actually allows you to keep in contact with people, albeit in a much more old-fashioned and formal way, instead of just letting that kind of like, you know, like fall by the wayside or something because you're overwhelmed and you're like having a moment where you're just like, I can't do all of this at once with everybody who wants to talk to me. Okay. Remember earlier I was talking about how it allows you to, if the relationship is built that way, because some of them are not, it can allow you more time, right, both of you, to communicate at your own speed as you're able. I think that that's a really cool thing, and I just wanted to throw that out there and be like, that could be helpful possibly for introverted people, and it could also be possibly helpful for people who maybe aren't introverted and are burned the hell out on constant interaction, because I don't care what people say, I think some extroverts actually do eventually suffer from that, mainly due to social media. And additionally, on top of that, people who are neurodivergent, don't know what it means, go Google it, neurodivergent. That can give somebody space to digest information while keeping up with somebody that they care about and at each other's own pace. So that's what I wanted to say about snail mail. It's been really fun. The axe up above here is from the UK. The other one actually had a little something in it for me from somebody's garden, which was cool. And then I know it wasn't an illegal thing, USPS, in case you're wondering. And then the T is from Jordan. So yeah, and then this one is the Strand, and that was a postcard sent to me by somebody who was visiting New York City at the time. And then this one over here is from a friend from middle school who's recently she was already in Oregon and she moved to a new place in Oregon and she got her first house and I'm like super excited for her and she sent me something. So yeah, I also have like quotes and things and a snitch that the person who sent me the patriotic looking card made a long time ago. And I still love it, even though I have mixed feelings about what JK's done since then. Anyway, that's snail mail. That's why I participate in it. If you want a pen pal, I'm sorry, it's not going to be me. But hopefully you can find somebody, if you do want one, that you can start that kind of thing with. And if you end up loving it, great. If you end up being like, oh my god, no, then just don't feel bad about telling the other person involved that you can't, okay? I know that that's hard, and in some cases for some people it actually is impossible for them to not feel bad because brains are tricky. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you all. I will have a talk eventually here because I just finished the third and final season of Versailles, which made me sad as much as I was satisfied by the ending. And I will now be finishing Boogie Pop Phantom because, not the original one, which I fondly remember from Tech TV, but I'll now be finishing that because I'm at the end of my semester, and I'll be doing some work over the summer on thesis, but other than that, I'm good. So I'm going to finally watch all the things I've been putting off, and I'll have reviews and or probably talks on that soon. Until then, if you like this video, if you're interested in what I gotta say, then if you want, you could hit the subscribe button. And if you're not, it's good having you. Take care of yourself as you're able.